Hello and welcome to another Pop Culture Powerhouses episode. This week we have got the one Neo
Yes.
versus Spider-Man, the amazing Spider-Man, the ultimate Spider-Man, the spectacular Spider-Man, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man,
Whoever takes your fancy.
Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Quite the
as always,
pairing.
it is. As always, we've got 6 categories.
We do.
Iconicness, individuality,
Yep.
quality of adaptations, legacy, relatability, and personal preference.
Yes.
Iconicness.
I feel like Neo is only iconic to our generation and older. Because, yes, there's been a Matrix film recently. It was pretty bad, though.
I didn't even get around to watching it.
I can't believe that Zoomers and the younger generation would have been that intrigued to go and watch it, unless their parents had made them watch the original ones.
I actually don't know. Because here's the thing, I feel like a lot of the younger generation, and you say Zoomers, I'm technically a Zoomer.
You know what I mean?
I feel like a lot of them, if they were to give it a go, would actually really like the Matrix films.
Probably.
But you're right, I don't know how many of them would have just off their own back been like, I should watch the Matrix.
Yeah, I feel like we all watched the Matrix because it was like, they obviously were new. It was pretty new tech in cinema for like the visual effects and stuff, and it was like a really cool concept of like reality's broken, it's all simulation, bit too real nowadays. Whereas like that franchise has kind of died off, and we know, especially going against Spider-Man, which we'll get to, but like if you want to keep being iconic, like it lives and dies with each generation, and if you don't make sure the next generation is as obsessed, then
Okay, counterpoint.
Go on.
The last of the original trilogy, which is all that actually matters.
Okay,
That's a rule for everything.
Yeah. I know, I see where you're going with this.
When did the last one come out? 2002? The first one came out in 1999, which was the year I was born. Right. 2003 was the last one. It's been 21 years.
True.
And we're still even talking about it. Can you name
True.
another film from 2003?
I don't remember 2003. Too many years ago.
Yes, you do. Yes,
no,
you do.
It's too many years ago. I'm too old now.
Okay, so Bruce Almighty was 2003.
Oh, really? Great film.
The Last Samurai. Cheaper by the dozen.
Okay.
I would say it's iconic.
Don't get me wrong. It is iconic. Like, we obviously all know it so well, and it did make a mark. And it's just like, this is where we get to now, though. It's like putting it against Spider-Man.
Oh, to be clear, I don't think anyone really beats Spider-Man.
No, Spider-Man's just at another level, and it's like, I think that's because Neo is, unfortunately, as you get younger, he becomes less iconic because less of them know about him. Though I would probably guess that a lot of youngsters know about essentially the Neo dodge of like going slow-mo backwards, but they don't necessarily actually probably know. So I bet there's some that don't know that's from the Matrix and that character is Neo.
But yeah, Spider-Man is the most iconic.
Yeah.
He just is. We've had 60 years of every little boy dressing up as Spider-Man every Halloween.
In my eyes, the only other person close to Spider-Man is Batman.
Batman and Superman are on a similar level, but I would still put Spider-Man ahead of them.
I would put Spider-Man ahead of them, but they are like right there with it. It's like those three, globally, the most iconic characters.
Absolutely, not even close. But props to Neo. He's iconic to me. God damn it.
Oh yeah, like I have much like Neo
Or Phil's
holds,
line. He is very iconic to me.
and it's like a lot of us to this day still enjoy like the Matrix reference and the concepts of Matrix. Like we enjoyed those films are great. They push and like very iconic to us. But yeah, Spider-Man's just kind of there's a reason two of the biggest entertainment companies fight over using him to make themselves money. You don't see anyone fighting over Neo.
Individuality.
Mm.
Now, we can look at this from two ways, and I think I'll let you make the decision.
Okay.
Neo is a very unique character,
Mm-hmm.
or Neo is Jesus, in which case he's not very unique.
Do you know what my brain was thinking when you were like individuality? I was like, well, Neo's just Jesus because he's the chosen one.
Yeah, he is Jesus. Like it's very clear that he's Jesus. Like that's
He is
thematically, it's very clear. He literally sacrifices himself to protect us from the robots which represent our sins. Like,
yeah, it's the classic self-sacrifice hero
yeah,
sort
and
of
in like, is one of the last scenes not also him literally like in a crucifix position?
possibly.
Like,
He has
Neo is Jesus,
followers. He is the prophet that they all read about and believed would come.
and he's portrayed by a close friend.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But counterpoint.
Okay.
Neo is much cooler than Jesus.
Agreed.
Because guns and flying and karate
and hacking and tech.
Yes.
And
yes. Yes.
yes.
I want to be Neo. I want to be Spider-Man, but
I want
Neo.
to enter the Matrix, yes.
Yeah.
Get me out of this simulation, please.
Like, stylistically wise, I can't think of many other protagonists who I feel like have that style. This
Probably
kind of very
I would say
stoic...
the closest, which happens to be around a similar time period, would be Blade.
The Wesley Snipes Blade,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably fair.
But they're like similar time period, and it's like...
Yeah. But I'd say he's pretty individual. The styling of the Matrix films and more importantly, Neo is really cool.
Yeah, agreed.
Like the all black leather is never not going to be a fit that I wish I could pull off.
Spider-Man though. I mean,
he's standard of superhero.
Yeah, and he's called Spider-Man. He is the first of that character trope.
Batman.
Kid saving the city? No, I suppose Batman was a kid saving the city at one point.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant of the name with
No, sorry. I mean like
by that becomes that
kid being
the young kid with all the responsibility in the world. Yeah. Well, I mean, I tweeted about it the other day. Let me find this tweet.
Yeah, so because people were being like, "Oh, Invincible and Ben 10 and all these." Yeah.
So someone was saying they all have the same aura, and it was Invincible, Rex. It's a cartoon that came after me. It was something like Rex something, and he was basically like made of nanobots, and he could like transform and stuff. It was really cool.
Okay.
Then you have Ben 10, and then you have Spectacular Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And someone quote retweeted that one because they're all just Spider-Man. To which I said, I need you to understand Spider-Man's legacy in inspiring these characters shouldn't be used as a weapon against these characters. Because while, yes, they are all very clearly inspired heavily by the concept of Spider-Man, they all take different routes with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is absolutely the blueprint. Not in a bad way, just is.
Yeah, he's like the first of that family tree.
Yeah. Put it this way, my dad doesn't really read comics anymore. But he remembers reading Spider-Man when it was first coming out. And he was like, and all of the kids couldn't get enough of it because Peter Parker was so relatable to them. He was a normal teen like them. A lot of the time in the early comics, he was having normal teen problems alongside fighting a supervillain. And not in a diminishing way, but it made your problems feel less severe,
Yeah.
which made it easier for you to live your life and deal with it. Spider-Man is. I'm just thinking, is this too... No, I don't think it's too dramatic a thing to say. Spider-Man is one of the most important fictional characters to have ever existed.
For kids to
Yeah.
get.
The generational gap that's... Like, there are now, realistically, people my father's age who has a 17-year-old grandson.
Yep.
And there is a real chance that correlation of a 60-year-old grandfather or 60-plus-year-old grandfather, 17-year-old grandson, both love Spider-Man. That's something across generations that instantly links two people. Like, that's crazy. How many things like that are there?
It's... I would say, like, the only other thing that I can think that spans generations like that is actually Star Wars.
And even then, most of them generations hate each other.
So yeah, but yeah, no, you're not wrong, and it's like you could. I mean, here's the point of how Spider-Man's like very individual. Even all these other heroes that have been influenced by him, you put all of them in a room, everyone's going to be like, oh, look, Spider-Man. Like, they all see Spider-Man first. Like,
put it this way.
Says all you need to know.
It's not seen as weird to, instead of getting like a clown or a magician as an entertainer for a kid's party, to get someone who dresses up as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But that's not seen as weird. Do you know how fucking insane that is?
That's true, because it's like...
clown, a magician, or Spider-Man?
No one wants Batman.
No.
Because he just brings the mood down.
Yeah, he's not funny. He's not going to do backflips and...
He needs time to set up.
Yeah. So yeah, there is no one more unique individually than Spider-Man. And any lack of uniqueness you feel like there is now is because he's the blueprint. It's like when you see like a Romeo and Juliet style love story. You're kind of like, oh, that feels cliche. And it's like, no, it's only cliche now because Romeo and Juliet's been around for so long that so many people have interpreted it in different ways that you've heard the story a million times. Yeah. It's the exact same idea.
Agreed.
Quality of adaptations. And it's a rough one for Neo. Because in reality, it's 4 films.
Isn't it 5 if you include the new one?
Really, really bad. No,
oh no, that was...
4th, though.
Was that 4? I can't...
Matrix, Reloaded, Resurgence is the newest one.
Oh, maybe it is 4, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that was the 5th.
The Matrix
yeah,
Reloaded,
Resurrections.
the Matrix Revolutions, and then the Matrix Resurrections.
If you take the first one as the standard, original, medium, it kind of only went downhill a little bit.
Yeah. I personally...
Second was alright. I enjoyed the second.
I personally don't think they went too aggressively downhill.
No. I would say I enjoyed the second. The third one was a bit like, I'm fine with the franchise finishing here as it did.
Yeah.
They did not need to make a 4th one. If anything, that ruined their chances at quality of adaptations because that 4th one's tanked their chances.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't know if Resurrections is actually worse than Revolutions. I'm looking at the numbers right now. It looks like it's probably better. But you got to remember, Reloaded and Revolutions came out like 6 months apart, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which kind of meant that film did really well, but also people were so hype on it that it could only really disappoint.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say it's just an average adaptation. Like, there's no real nuance to it because there's only one adaptation. I think Neo is a very good character. The only issue we potentially have with saying it's an okay adaptation is with saying he's an iconic character, and this is the only adaptation of him, so surely it's a good one.
Yeah, I suppose we've had video games that were kind of okay, but very dated for the time that they came out. They weren't anything special. So that kind of hurts them a bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, Spider Man. If you take comics, obviously the primary. Now the question is, do you take the original run is the primary, and then every story, alternate story after that is a adaptation,
Hmm.
or do you
So
take just
you
comics as?
you could make the argument the Amazing Spider-Man, which
Mm-hmm,
started back in the 60s and is still going on today,
mm-hmm.
is
Is
the
the
core adaptation.
yeah?
But obviously, during that time, there have been multiple new writers take the helm.
Mhm. I feel like you have to take that Amazing Spider-Man as a whole, that comic run, with its slight changes over the years. That is like its original medium,
Yeah.
and then obviously the animated TV stuff is an alternate, is an adaptation. Obviously, we've had three different types of films stories, which I would class each of them as an adaptation because it's been a different Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Um,
Then you've
we've
got all
got
the animated
games.
cartoons, games.
I would say, while there's been some like lower quality films, I wouldn't.
Spider-Man fans have always eaten well.
Yeah, I would say none of them have been like, oh no, you've absolutely butchered Spider-Man here. Like it's just been like, oh, this third one was a bit, you went a bit left field here. Um, I would say 99% of the time that like they've been absolute solid adaptations.
I would completely agree with that.
And it's
I
hard
don't
to
think.
kind of go wrong with Spider-Man a little bit.
Oh no, I think it's actually very easy to go wrong. But I think people love Spider-Man so much, and there's such a plethora of good media out there
True.
that writers have a lot to be inspired by. And you just then
Yeah, you
get
have to
good
be pretty dumb
writers.
to go wrong with it, is more what I mean.
Yeah, it's very easy to fuck up, but like because so many people want to do a Spider-Man story, they have access to the best.
No, I was about to bring up the Sony films, but they don't technically have Spider-Man in them, so like the more
Yeah, no,
recent,
they can't go against
so
Spider-Man.
they don't include in this.
And like even the Andrew Garfield ones have got a solid fan base. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, yeah,
There
yeah.
is a lot of people who like.
Andrew Garfield's the most.
Yeah, no, but what my point is, like, all Spider-Man media, no matter how good you think it is,
Mm.
there is also loads of people who like your least favorite one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because Spider-Man is such a broad character now, people like and dislike different parts of the character.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where you are left with there's being a large amount of people who like every adaptation,
Yep.
even if not everyone liked every adaptation.
Yep.
I think they're both very solid candidates for quality of adaptations. One because Spider-Man fans have always eaten well, and then the other because Neo just only had one adaptation, and he gets to be in the pop culture powerhouses from that one adaptation.
I would agree. I would say Neo's is hurt a little bit with the fourth film.
Definitely.
But yeah.
Legacy.
Yeah, Legacy. I mean,
Well, we won't get into it too much. One could argue the legacy of Neo is misogyny and red pill YouTube content culture because they talk about the Matrix constantly.
yeah.
However, I also believe that if Keanu Reeves found out what Andrew Tate was trying to use the Matrix for, he would beat him to within an inch of his life. And also, the brothers who made the Matrix are now sisters.
There you go.
That is always my favorite fun fact is like you're using the Matrix allegory about why everything that you hate is bad. But one of the
Yeah.
things you hate is trans people, and guess what? The directors of them films are
Yeah.
trans.
I
So eat shit.
would say, like, I agree with you. And although there's certain bad areas of the internet that try to use Matrix for their own views, there's a lot of like great internet legacy in the form of like the red pill, blue pill memes and like the Agent Smith stuff. Like there's a ton of good internet like side of
It
things.
is, yeah. It is a legitimate pop culture powerhouse. I saw this on your list and I was like, that's the kind of stuff we want because the Matrix is a foundational part of pop culture, especially for
And
people our age.
yeah, and sort of our intro, like it, although it's not necessarily like your superhero nerdy, it's techie and this idea that like the world's a simulator. It's very much in the nerd side of things.
Neo has long been an inspiration in a weird way, in the sense of the guy just kind of was put in a position he never really truly believes he's the one. Like that's the whole point near
Mm-hmm.
the end of the second film. He's truly starting to believe, blah 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 blah. But he's awesome. He's just trying to do what is right and help people, and like that is as good a message as anyone can get across. So I do think overall the legacy of Neo as a character is a good legacy.
Yeah, I would agree.
Um, Spider-Man's legacy we've already touched on a little bit.
Yeah.
Genre defining legacy.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Every comic book writer hopes to write their next Spider-Man.
yeah. And I mean, look at like the animated stuff, Spider-Verse, like they are all clearly were passionate about getting to do a Spider-Man animated film.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, yeah, just sorry, that's just made me think about his legacy in a whole new way. Spider-Man's legacy is so large that they created a legacy character to take over the Spider-Man mantle in Miles,
mhm.
and Miles is now one of the biggest superheroes in the world, and he didn't exist for 2012 or whatever it was.
Yeah, like Spider-Man's legacy has now like influenced writers coming up with their own characters for the Spider-Man universe, and it's like that wouldn't have happened without Spider-Man.
Yeah,
And a lot
the
of other
Spider-Verse is
superheroes.
huge.
Well, it's like also like you could probably say any superhero that came out like 10, 20 years after Spider-Man, where those kids grew up and became comic writers and then got the opportunity to create their own character, whether it's a hero, villain, or whatever. All that comes from Spider-Man's legacy of them wanting to get into that industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I would imagine, I'm speaking as someone who is not a comic book writer in any way, obviously. Although if anyone wants to collab, um, I would imagine for most comic book writers, the dream is getting asked to work on Spider-Man.
yeah, it's the either you have a very unique favorite character, or it's like you want to work on Spider-Man,
Batman or
Avengers,
Superman.
maybe.
Avengers as a comic has never done particularly well. I can't
Maybe
imagine
if
it would.
someone likes the whole
Maybe in modern
team, but
times
yeah.
now, yeah.
But like, yeah,
Um,
Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, like they're like
X-Men, yeah, the gold
yeah.
standard. If you get asked to do this, you've made it.
And if you get the freedom to do your own like little run, even better.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
Like Jonathan Hickman getting asked to do a new Ultimate Spider-Man. Like Jonathan Hickman is obviously a phenomenal writer
mhm,
who's been around for ages. But I imagine him getting asked to do that was like a very big, awesome. That means a lot to me.
yeah.
Also, while we're talking about Spider-Man, I finally caught up on the first 3 issues of Jonathan Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Issue 1 of Jonathan Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man might be one of the most beautiful comics I've read.
There you go. That
Cooked.
doesn't happen without Spider-Man.
Yeah, cooked. It's so good. I mean, to this day, people quote stuff like "with great power comes great responsibility." Like, it's insane.
To this
his
day, kids
legacy.
go and try and shoot webs.
Yeah.
And if you catch something really quickly, everyone then goes,
Yeah,
Am I
there is
Spider-Man
not
now?
a single being on this planet who at some point hasn't done something with really good reactions and just tested to see if they can stick to the wall. There has not been a single kid who on a playground has seen a spider and not debated trying to get the spider to bite it to see if they'll get superpowers.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like, that is legacy.
I agreed.
Relatability.
I
Is
feel
Neo relatable?
more so recently with whether you want to believe this stuff or not. Obviously, that's your own choice. But like the whole talk about, are we living in a simulation? Those theories of life, of that, like all that stuff, almost makes Neo and the Matrix stuff more relatable. And like Neo being, like you said earlier, just an ordinary guy who then kind of gets his world shaken upside down. We can relate to how that would maybe feel.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't relate to the fact of like actually what that would be like to then suddenly realize you are the chosen one and you're living a fake world. Um, but I think there's, at least for our generation who grew up watching those films, and now as we are older in this world, I feel like we maybe relate a little bit.
Neo was a guy working a boring, bland, mundane office job.
Hmm.
And then it was, you've got to save the entire world. There have been times like how would I describe it? I get semi-regular deja vu
Oh, I get it all the
um,
time. It's
about
freaky.
really weird things. And every time I do just find myself going, am I in the Matrix?
Was that a second black cat that just crossed? Is there
Do you know
repeating
what I
happening?
mean? Um, and is that relatable or is that legacy? I mean, who knows? But it's our show, so deal with it.
Yeah, it
But
blends.
I would say there is a level of relatability there. I think for me, and for probably a lot of people, I find it quite relatable as like a question of faith, because that's what a lot of it is. Obviously, we know it's inspired so heavily by the Bible and Jesus' story and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
know a lot of people who are quite religious. Obviously, there was a lot of backlash from religious people about it being demonic or whatever.
Oh, there's a suppose.
Um, but I also think a lot of people who have faith kind of watch it and they're kind of like, some of them it makes them reaffirm their faith, some of it makes them question their faith. I think I find it. Do you know how difficult it is to say thought provoking without sounding like an
I know what you
unbearable
mean.
dickhead? But I do like, when I've not watched it for a while, I
Yeah.
find myself, I watch it, I'm like, it feels like a nice reset. It feels like I can clear my mind
Yeah.
a little bit.
I know what you mean.
Spider-Man, is he relatable? Um, yeah,
Yeah, he's just a kid who suddenly has to save his whole neighborhood.
he's got so much responsibility. He's constantly overwhelmed. He can't stop cracking jokes because he's so anxious all the time.
I'd I'd
He's
even
so relatable.
yeah, and yes, obviously original storyline, he's high school. There's so many storylines now where he's older, where he's college, teenage,
I
like
mean, yeah,
relatable for any
have
age of being like hitting what that age person would be going through, but then be like that understanding of, oh, we can relate to what that would be like to then also have powers and have this responsibility of being
just
Spider-Man.
just to go back slightly to what I was saying about the new Jonathan Hickman run.
Mm.
In this version, he is a fully grown man married to MJ with 2 kids before he becomes Spider-Man.
Oh, okay, there you go then.
So like issue 1 is like, it's a bit techie because of like a universal setup thing, but
Mm-hmm.
basically he finds out he can become Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
when he's already married with kids, and the entire first issue is him trying to deal with the fact that for his entire life he's felt like he's missing out on something, but he doesn't know what,
And now he
and
realizes.
now he needs to take this chance. If anyone gets the opportunity to read it for free online or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
please do, because like the last 10 pages where he has conversations with Ben and MJ about him needing to make this change.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've said this before. it had me ready to go out and just fight crime. I was like, fuck it, let's fix some shit, let's make stuff better. It's relatable, maybe not relatable in the sense of, oh, I've lived this story relatable, but you
Yeah.
find it can speak to you as an individual and make you feel more content, more happy, more at ease with your decisions.
Yeah, and like I think like you said it earlier on with like the idea that we can relate to, oh, makes our issues feel a bit easier to manage because we can relate to the fact that Spider-Man Peter Parker's going through the same issues, but also he's Spider-Man and he can handle it, so I have no
Yeah.
excuse.
What would
So
Spider-Man do is words to live by, and it sounds fucking stupid, but if you're there like, what would Peter Parker do in this situation? Okay, I'm gonna do the opposite because he makes terrible decisions. Yeah, so relatable. Maybe I'm just a massive nerd. I mean, I accept that a long time ago, but I find Peter Parker relatable. Like right now in the Miles storyline, I
mm,
know, like, I didn't specify Peter, although we have mainly talked about Peter, but Spider-Man is like a name. Miles is suffering with essentially performance anxiety, superpower wise, in the
mm,
comics right now, and he's getting therapy. Like
there
every
you
other
go.
issue, you get like half a issue where it's like him in therapy talking about what he's working on. Do you know how good that is? There is going to be
Mm,
someone reading Spider-Man right now as an escape who is feeling more comfortable about the fact they're going to therapy because,
mhm.
hey, Spider-Man's in therapy too.
Yeah. He
Like,
whatever
Spider-Man's there
like
for everyone.
yeah, whatever issue you're dealing with, there's probably a comic where Spider-Man's dealt with a similar issue that then makes him feel relatable in also managing that same thing.
Um, Personal preference.
Well, one hand, I can escape reality, which sounds pretty good at the moment nowadays. I'll be honest. But then the reality, the what the world here I could escape into, I'm like, I don't know. Spider-Man. Well, of course, I want to be Spider-Man. Who doesn't? And Spider-Man's just so enjoyable to watch in any format, medium. I don't see. I'm not running to go rewatch The Matrix. Yes, they're great films, and I do enjoy them. I'd much sooner run and want to watch Spider-Man.
The day, whether people enjoy Spider-Man for their whole life or not, everyone for a period of time loved Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is such a beautiful thing that I would never ever want to lose. Even if one day I don't want to read Spider-Man anymore and I don't want to watch Spider-Man films anymore, I will still look back at the times where I was like, you know what, Tobey Maguire, I need to feel better about myself. Come on, let's cook. Let's go save New York City. Let's go punch Doc Ock in the face. Let's cook. It has to be Spider-Man for my personal preference.
Yeah.
I'm literally every month having 3 or 4 Spider-Man comics delivered to my
I mean,
front door.
you literally have a Spider-Man PS5
Yeah,
behind you.
I spent 500 Great British pounds on a device just to play Spider-Man 2.
There you go. There's the answer.
Like it doesn't
I
get
feel like
more.
we should tot up our results here
If
for who
Neo,
we have on top, but I think it's
if
pretty
Neo
obvious.
doesn't lose 6-0, he's done really, really well. Iconicness Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Individuality Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Quality of adaptations.
I would give Spider-Man.
I would be inclined to be able to call this a draw. Because although Spider-Man's been consistently very, very good, there are still some bits that everyone has some Spider-Man bits they don't like. If you like The Matrix, it's the same adaptation of Neo the whole way through.
True. My issues with the
I
fourth one
don't,
are more on other
yeah,
characters than Neo.
but it's still the same adaptation.
Yeah,
So I don't, I think you have to view it all as one.
I suppose I could allow a draw.
I think that's his best bet at a draw.
Okay.
Legacy. Spider-Man has one of the best legacies of
Yeah.
anyone we'll discuss in this show. Relatability. I am Peter Parker. I don't know what version of Peter Parker I am, but I am a version of Peter Parker.
I am old Peter Parker.
You are very old Peter Parker. Fucking ancient Peter Parker.
I'm the older Peter Parker that needs another Spider-Man to crack my back.
And then you got personal preference, which is of course
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
we're both Spider-Man there.
A nice, comfortable 5-0 win for the goated superhero that is
It's
Spider-Man.
I don't think it's a surprise, but Neo definitely is up there as an iconic character, especially in our medium and our age range anyway.
Absolutely. Oh, see, we've just spent all the time talking about how great Spider-Man is. I'm kind of like, I could watch The Matrix, you know. I could.
I could
Especially
watch the first one, but I'm not going to rush.
Yeah, it's not one of them trilogies that I'm like, oh, I have to watch these back to back to back.
No.
But that is all from us on the pop culture powerhouses this week. Thank you
Yeah,
so
can the
much.
Neo hardcore fans let us know how wrong we are in the
Yeah.
comments?
Comment down below who else you'd like to see make an appearance on the Pop Culture Powerhouses.
Yes.
Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, ring that bell for post notifications, and we'll catch you next week.
Catch you in the next one.